Words are often the least reliable part of human interaction because language can be controlled. It can be rehearsed, polished, shaped into something that sounds right. Even when it isn't true, speech is flexible. People can choose what to reveal, what to hide, and what version of themselves they want the world to see. But the face is different. The face often speaks before the mind has time to edit. It reacts faster than language. And that is where the science of nonverbal communication begins. In behavioral psychology, nonverbal communication includes everything beyond speech: facial expressions, gestures, posture, tone of voice, the way someone moves through space, even the smallest pause between sentences. These signals form a hidden language that people constantly exchange, often without realizing it. And within this silent language, one phenomenon stands out as especially powerful: microexpressions. Microexpressions are brief flashes of emotion that appear on the face before a person can consciously control them. They last only a fraction of a second, sometimes too fast for the untrained eye to notice, but they reveal something important. They show what someone truly feels underneath what they are trying to present. A person may speak calmly, but their face may briefly show fear. They may smile politely, but a flicker of contempt can cross their expression before disappearing. Psychologists discovered that emotions have universal facial patterns. Happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, disgust, fear. These emotions appear similarly across cultures. Even when people grow up in different societies, the facial muscles move in recognizable ways. That means the face is not only personal, it is biological. It carries emotional truth that language often cannot fully mask. This is why microexpressions matter so much in human interaction, because most of our communication is not about what is said. It is about what is felt. When someone tells you they are fine, you don't only listen to the words. You watch the eyes, the tension in the jaw, the stiffness in posture, the hesitation before answering. Your brain is constantly scanning for emotional information, even if you're not aware of it. Nonverbal cues are the reason we can sense discomfort in a room before anyone speaks. They're the reason we feel trust with some people instantly and unease with others without being able to explain why. The human mind is built for social detection. Long before language, our survival depended on reading faces quickly, knowing who was safe, who was angry, who was hiding something. The face became one of the earliest signals of intention. Microexpressions are especially important because they often reveal conflict, the gap between what someone says and what they feel. A person may claim confidence, but their expression may show anxiety. They may insist they are not offended, but a brief tightening around the eyes may suggest resentment. These moments are small, but psychologically they are powerful because they remind us that emotions leak through the body, even when words attempt to contain them. Understanding microexpressions is not about turning life into interrogation. It is about realizing how much communication happens beneath the surface. Most relationships are shaped not only by spoken sentences, but by subtle emotional exchanges. The unspoken tension, the warmth in a genuine smile, the discomfort in forced politeness. The face is constantly telling stories, even when the mouth remains careful. And once you begin to notice this, you start to see human interaction differently. Conversations become layered. Words become only one part of the message. And the face becomes what it has always been, the most honest language we have. Microexpressions become even more fascinating when we realize how often they shape our judgments without conscious awareness. Most people believe they make decisions based on logic, words, and explicit information. But in reality, much of human perception is emotional first, rational second. Before you understand what someone is saying, your brain has already evaluated how they feel. The emotional tone arrives faster than the content. This is why microexpressions influence trust so strongly. Trust is not built only through promises. It is built through consistency between language and emotion. When someone's words align with their face, we feel stability. When their face contradicts their words, we feel uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most uncomfortable psychological states. The brain would rather believe a harsh truth than sit inside ambiguity. Imagine someone saying, "I'm happy for you," while their expression briefly shows envy. The sentence is supportive, but the emotional leak creates tension. You may not consciously identify the microexpression, but you feel something off. That feeling is not irrational. It is perception. The mind is detecting mismatch. Microexpressions also reveal something about ourselves. They remind us that emotions are not always chosen. We do not fully control what we feel in the first instant. Emotion comes before intention. A flash of fear, a spark of anger, a moment of sadness. These reactions happen automatically, shaped by biology and experience. Only afterward does a conscious mind step in and decide what to do with them. This is why the face often speaks before the mind edits. It is not betrayal. It is humanity. The emotional system is older than language. It reacts quickly because it was designed for survival luck. Long before modern conversation, emotional detection meant survival, recognizing threat, recognizing safety, recognizing belonging. These were urgent signals. The muscles of the face became part of that system. In everyday life, microexpressions appear constantly. In workplaces, during negotiations, in friendships, in family conversations. A manager may say they are open to feedback, but a flicker of irritation may discourage honesty. A friend may claim they are fine, but sadness may briefly show in the eyes. These moments are small, but they shape relationships over time. Microexpressions are also connected to self-awareness. Many people believe emotions are either fully hidden or fully expressed. But microexpressions exist in between. They are the middle layer, feelings that surface briefly before being covered. And that middle layer is where much of psychological truth lives. Because humans are social creatures, we learn early how to manage impressions. We learn what emotions are acceptable, what emotions should be hidden, what expressions bring approval. Over time, we develop social masks. But microexpressions reveal the cracks in the mask, not because people are dishonest, but because emotion is faster than performance. This is why microexpressions are so powerful in storytelling and film. A single flicker of emotion can reveal a character's true state more than a paragraph of dialogue. The audience senses it instantly. We are wired to read faces. The face is a shortcut into the inner world. But it is important to understand microexpressions with humility. They do not provide absolute certainty. A brief expression does not always mean deception. Sometimes it reflects anxiety, discomfort, or inner conflict unrelated to lying. The goal is not accusation. The goal is awareness. Microexpressions remind us that human beings are complex. We can feel two emotions at once. We can want to be honest and still feel fear, We can love someone and still feel resentment. Emotional life is layered. The face shows those layers, even when words simplify them. And once you recognize that, you begin to approach interaction differently, not as a surface exchange of sentences, but as a deeper emotional landscape. Words are only the top layer. Beneath them, the face continues speaking. As we begin to understand microexpressions, we also begin to understand something deeper about human interaction. Most communication is not about information. It is about emotion. People rarely remember the exact words you used, but they remember the feeling they sensed. They remember whether you felt safe, whether you felt sincere, whether you felt present. This is why microexpressions matter. They are not just facial movements. They are emotional signals. They are the body's way of speaking in a language older than speech. Even when we try to hide what we feel, the emotional system still leaves traces. The face becomes a kind of map, revealing what the mind has not yet organized into sentences. In behavioral psychology, this reminds us that human beings are not purely rational actors. We are emotional organisms who reason afterward. Much of what we call judgment is actually intuition shaped by subtle cues. A brief tightening around the eyes, a flicker of contempt, a moment of fear. These are tiny, but they carry weight. And perhaps the most important insight is not about reading others, but about seeing ourselves. Microexpressions show us that emotions are always moving beneath the surface. Even when we appear calm, something inside may be shifting. Even when we speak confidently, uncertainty may flash through. The face reveals that inner life is dynamic, not fixed. This is why emotional intelligence begins with observation, not control, not manipulation, but attention, the ability to notice what is happening, both in others and in ourselves. Because the more aware we become, the less we are ruled by unconscious reactions. Microexpressions also teach us empathy. When we see that people leak emotion unintentionally, we realize how much everyone is carrying. Everyone is managing something. Everyone is balancing what they feel with what they show. Everyone is trying to belong, to be understood, to stay safe. In modern life, we often rely too heavily on words. We send messages, we write texts, we craft explanations. But the human brain evolved for faces, not screens. We trust expressions more than paragraphs. We sense sincerity more than logic. This is why face-to-face interaction still holds a psychological power that cannot be replaced. At the same time, microexpressions remind us to be careful. The goal is not to become suspicious. The goal is not to treat every flicker as proof. Human emotion is complicated. A flash of fear may not mean dishonesty. A moment of anger may not mean hostility. Sometimes it simply means someone is human, reacting in real time. The deeper lesson is that communication is always layered. There is a spoken layer, what people say. There is the behavioral layer, what people do. And there is an emotional layer, what people reveal without trying. Microexpressions belong to that emotional layer. They are whispers of the inner world. When you begin to notice them, you begin to see interaction differently. Conversations become richer. People become more complex. And you realize that the truth is rarely floating on the surface. It is often hidden in the smallest movements, the briefest pauses, the quiet signals the body cannot fully suppress. Because in the end, the face is not just an expression. It is a message. And microexpressions are the moments when that message escapes before it can be rewritten.